The greatest valued component of any evolving society will be the level of perception, consciousness, and awareness of its citizenry. So, in 1976, Ogun State was created out of the erstwhile southwest region by the regime of late General Murtala Mohammed. It was clear to the founding fathers that a viral information dissemination and management structure was essential as part of a strong, sustainable, and durable governmental structure.
The founding fathers that set up Ogun State actually had a foresight, they had a vision, and they know that that vision will be best driven when the people they are leading have adequate information about, not just about their government, but about their environment, about themselves, and society in general. It's a time-tested saying that he who has information has power. When you are adequately informed, you are in a better position to make informed decisions. You are in a better position to take instruction, distill instruction, and interpret instruction to make it useful for you. But in a situation where you don't have a very good and effective information management system, that's when you leave room, give to rumor mongering, character assassination, and mischief. You give room for mischief makers. You know, mischief makers, rumor thrive in an environment where there's no proper management of information. So the founding father that set up Ogun State in 1976, when it was created, set up a strong Ministry of Information and Strategy. It was part of some other ministries then, before it was separated to stand alone as Ministry of Information. Then strategy was later added over the years. So they knew what they were doing.
45 years after, the beat goes on, smoothly, one should say. Alhaji Abiodun Awere is permanent secretary in the State Ministry of Information and Strategy.
We never had it so good. I remember 8 years ago where we'd be clamoring, we don't have this, we don't have this. Immediately, His Excellency Prince Dapo Abiodun came on board. He turned around this ministry by providing state-of-the-art equipment. We now have very nice public address system, newsroom renovated. We have Ogun Update renovated. We have the monitoring room. Go and see our studio. It has been turned around. All these are courtesy of His Excellency. We thank him for that. We've been provided a bus. That bus will serve as PAE. That means that we now have equipment to discharge our responsibility for the betterment of the ministry, for the betterment of Ogun State.
Actually, information management is pivotal in the evolution and growth of societies, especially from the point of their emergence. It serves a lot of purposes, which include being a means of mobilization for support towards peace, order, growth, and development. It is also a means of awakening consciousness among the people, with Ogun State citizens on our mind, while contributing to the building of a strong sense of identity and patronage. It helps as well to ensure that credible information is not overtaken by rumors and deliberate falsehood in information dissemination.
The ministry and that information team over the years has helped in galvanizing the people, in mobilizing the people for effective control, to achieve order in society, to achieve order in our homes, to achieve order in government. The ministry has been disseminating this information. If you recall, this was a long time ago anyway, during the, I think, 83 elections in Nigeria and the Second Republic, when people protested against what they perceive as the rigging of the election that time. Whereas there was violence in other states, especially in the Southwest here. Ogun State was not touched. It wasn't a coincidence that the governor of the state then was an astute information manager, a journalist of repute, late Chief Olabisi Onabanjo. So that shows that where you have information managers at the helm, things hardly go wrong because they react proactively and know how to manage, pre, during, and after event information such that we will be able to get our desired result. So that will tell you what a good information management has done for us in Ogun State. It has helped in mobilizing our people towards a desired goal. It has helped in enlightening our people. We are going through a very, very difficult public health challenge now, this COVID-19 thing. You see, the index case was discovered in Ogun State. But even at that, we are not among the worst in terms of infection of COVID-19 in Nigeria today. Why and how? Because we have been able to disseminate the right and accurate information to our people, such that they are now taking informed decisions about their own health.
45 years on, this documentary takes a look at how information management has evolved through the eyes and lenses of those who had been there and those who today see that the information mechanism works at the highest level of efficiency. Over these years, information management has played and continues to play an important role in Ogun State. For instance, it has contributed in the creation and sustenance of the unity.
The Ministry of Information and Strategy is the public relations arm of government. And in public relations, we are taught and told that PR is a management function. Public relations should not be an afterthought. It should be part of the thought process. It should be part of decision-making process, such that when that decision has been taken, there should be a PR person or a journalist or an information manager at the table, such that you will be able to, from the beginning, be able to know how to manage the information that will emanate as a result of the action called to be taken with that when that decision is finally taken. The PR man there or the information manager there should be able to advise management that when this decision you want to take, as good as it is, these are the likely implications when it goes out to the public. And if it is like this is what we could expect from the public when these steps are taken or when these actions are taken. That means information is being part of decision-making process. When that is done, it will be easier to manage the fallout as a result of the action taken.
However, it hasn't all been like this. Actually, a lot of efforts and sacrifices have been responsible for the kind of transformation which the Ministry of Information and Strategy is presently witnessing. Established after the creation of the state in 1976, as earlier mentioned, the present Ogun State Ministry of Information and Strategy, known then as the Ogun State Information Service, OGIS, saddled with the responsibility of giving impetus to various programs of government, has metamorphosed through various names from Ministry of Local Government and Information, Information, Sports and Social Welfare, Information and Culture, Information, Social Development, Youth and Sports, Information, Community Development, Culture and Sports, Information, Sports and Culture, Information, Special Duties, Sports and Culture, Information and Orientation, and finally, what it bears today, Ministry of Information and Strategy. The job knowledge of the major dramatis personnel was high right from the outset. Seasoned officers abound who were comparable to the best in the other states. Mrs. Elizabeth Yetunde Kujore, a retired permanent secretary whose first stint was at the Ministry of Information, joined the State Civil Service in 1978, and reminiscences about the early days of its creation, recalling that at commencement, information was a mere department under a larger agency.
When I joined the ministry was the Ministry of Information, Local Government, Social Welfare and Community Development. It was a one-way structure. We had a Chief Information Officer, was Chief Kola Bangbelu. He's still alive, he's in Ibadan. We had late Chief Femi Akioye as the Deputy Chief Information Officer. Then we had a number of Assistant Chief Information Officers, Principal Information Officers, coming down to Information Officers.
The views of Mrs. Kujore is here corroborated by Barrister Demola Badejo, also one of the retired permanent secretaries who spent decades in the State Ministry of Information.
I was fortunate that by the time I joined the public service via the Ministry of Information, we had as Chief Information Officer the first university graduate to work in that ministry. That was Chief Femi Akioye. So he was actually excited when he saw me, when I reported for duties. And incidentally, when he posted me straight to the newsroom. And who was in the newsroom? The late Femi Olori. The moment he saw me, he said, this was one of the badagers. What are you doing here? He said, I'm here to report for duties as an information officer. So he warmly welcomed me and it was straight to work.
Beginning as a single department headed by a chief information officer, the ministry evolved through various stages with the change of nomenclature from chief information officer to director of information.
One of the founding fathers of the Ogun State Information Service is a veteran journalist by the name Kola Bangbelu. Incidentally, Mr. Kola Bangbelu is still alive. He's in Ibadan, still visiting. He was the first chief information officer. What you know today as director of information. There was only one head in those days in the information agency, and he was known as chief information officer. That's a very powerful position. As a matter of fact, what we call Ogun State today, we call it the Gateway State. It was Chief Kola Bangbelu who actually coined that name, that appellation, because the military then, when the state was created, knew how powerful information management, how important information management is even till today. And so Mr. Bangbelu had that rare privilege to always be with His Excellency, the governor back then. And so when they were actually looking for a name to be given as an appellation to the state, he actually suggested Gateway State, arguing that gateway, that Ogun State happens to be gateway to Nigeria. If you are coming in through Benin, if you are coming in through the port through Lagos, it's also a gateway to Nigeria. Is it to the north you want to go, or to the east? You have to pass through the corridor of Ogun State. So that's how that actually emerged, and that will tell you how important information management had been over the years. Information is power, and for any government to succeed in mobilizing the citizenry for development, you need to inform them, you need to educate them, you need to enlighten them, and the information service has always had a very crucial role to play in that.
We had the newsroom. In the newsroom, we had information officers who were attached to ministries, and we used to produce the daily bulletin which people know usually call OGs. It must come out daily, at least 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Then we had a driver that takes the bulletin to Ibadan for transmission they take it to the Daily Sketch, they take it to NTA in Ibadan. Those 2 stations, because we didn't have a television station here then. I called the newsroom a madhouse. I remember then when the officers come in, start shouting, arguing, and all these things. There's this woman, mommy next door, Chief Mrs. Ronke Doherty. Most times she has to come to Chief Bangbelu that we are disturbing her. Then we have the radio and television section. That time we were producing government half hour, which is transmitted on Ogun radio. Then it was just AM on Ogun radio. Then we used to take the program to Ibadan. I was once a presenter on that program. We go to Ibadan on a Tuesday. We do the recording at NTA Ibadan, and it's transmitted on NTA Ibadan. People can see it. Even people see it as far as Kwara State then. Then we had the field publicity. We had so many PA events then. We have field officers covering Ijebu Ode, Ilaro, Shagamu, and Ota. And we had officers covering those areas, manned with the PA. There's the information officer, then there's the PA driver. Even at that time, grassroots publicity was very, very vast and very, very important, because the PA drivers goes out to show films on relevant information in the state to people in the local areas. Then we have the film section that produces film when after covering government assignments, they take all these things, they are coupled together and they are taken to Ibadan, because we didn't have a television station here, so everything we had to go to Ibadan. Ibadan was the main center for people to view our programs. Then we had the photo section. We have photographers that takes photographs of government activities, and they are taken to Sketch and Tribune too in Ibadan. So those are the papers that we use to publicize government activities.
Other departments sprang up, beginning with departments such as production services and public enlightenment. Much later, the departments of strategy as well as planning, research, and statistics were added. How did this expansion come about? Demola Badejo explains.
By the time that those I mentioned, and then later on some of us came in, it was no longer an information agency that comprised people who only had experience in the media and who came to now assist government in information management. University graduates started coming in from Chief Akioye, and then the likes of Femi Oluni, Odusi, and then so in terms of quality of entrance had improved, but unfortunately the fact that we had a single line of authority, just one department, created a problem. Somebody like Mrs. Yetunde Kujore spent over 8 years on a particular position without being promoted. And you know, even though we are enjoying our job, but the fact that one was not being compensated, and then your colleagues who came in with you and who were either in admin or in some other agencies were being promoted as at when due, could be very frustrating. And I think, and some of us, we are also very active in the NUJ, so we are proving our mettle, and even outside of the ministry, and people started respecting us, and they also felt that, look, these people must be encouraged. These are people that can contribute to, you know, and of course the responsibilities that we are handling also increased. There are a lot of challenges, so people came in, many people were recruited, and it necessitated, of course, an expansion of the ministry itself. And so the structures became, like you said, it was first 2 departments, but later on we had 4 departments.
I personally spent 7 years on a grade level because there was no vacancy. So that, not that I wasn't working, but because there was no vacancy, there was nothing we could do. So that was when we started thinking of how can we do it. Then we now got to know that there are some states that were now breaking into departments, Ministry of Information, like a Ministry of Information in Lagos, that has been divided now into 2. So we toed the line. Unfortunately, we got approval from the Ministry of Establishments then.
The ministry entered into another phase of its evolution when it moved to the main secretariat at Okemoson in the 90s. Alhaji Wahid Odushile serves today as Commissioner for Information and Strategy. Prior to his emergence, 17 others had been commissioners. To Mrs. Kujore, whether it is subjective or not, Chief Taiwo Alimi's tenure was particularly poignant. Arguably, Chief Alimi served the longest on the revered seat as commissioner.
Under Chief Taiwo Alimi, the Minister of Information, we had an information order of how things are supposed to be done to achieve participatory governance. We had press conferences, chat with media groups with His Excellency. We had village square meetings, which was very, very good. We had luncheon with interest groups. We had mailing lists. Then we had leaflets on tourism, we had on health, we had on tourism. We had a separate one on Olumo, one on Birikisi Shugbo.
Today, the ministry continues to grow in leaps and bounds with a transformation from a single unit under a larger agency into a full-fledged autonomous one. And with the advancement from 2 professional departments to 4, its activities now have expanded to address the challenges of the day, consolidating its place as the only institutionalized government information management structure through the integration of traditional and new forms of media products. These include Ogun Update, a monthly magazine which captures activities of the government of the state and its people. OG's Bulletin, a daily newsletter mailed to all news platforms and citizens of the state, along with public enlightenment programs on radio and television in English, Yoruba, and Pidgin English, drawing the attention of the people to the activities of their government towards ensuring dividends of democracy are for everyone. Government, not long ago, paid enormous attention to the procurement of state-of-the-art equipment with a view to strengthening the existing mechanisms of service delivery. Beneficiaries are the Public Address Equipment section of the Department of Strategy, the Radio TV Monitoring section of the Department of Planning, Research and Statistics, along with the studio in the Department of Public Enlightenment, which has also been remodeled in addition to the newly purchased equipment, geared towards increased efficiency in the production of programs, jingles, and other state promotional materials or content as information for dissemination. Going forward, the Ministry of Information and Strategy is poised to keep the flag flying so that the important role of information management is not compromised. The founding fathers hoped for this, and that is the least today's minders are committed to.
Going forward, I want to see the information management team in Ogun State being part of the government from inception. That means when policies are to be formulated, decisions are to be taken, decisions are to be implemented, information management should be embedded and be part of it. Because when the chips are down, when actions are taken, if the PR or the information manager is not part of it, it's now being left to go and clear the mess if anything untoward happen as a result of that information. But then, if he's part of it, he will be able to explain, not only just defending, be able to explain convincingly to the public why such decision was taken. And being an expert in information management, he will also be able to evaluate the effect of that action on the people and report back and feed government back. Because for every outflow of information, there should be a return in terms of feedback to the management, in this case, the government.